for joining us today. So we'll be walking through, how PreVeil's GRC can help streamline CMMC compliance by centralizing, documentation and tasks. But before we get into that, let me just go ahead and do a quick round of introductions of our panelists. So my name is Yasmin. I am the director of our customer success team here at PreVeil. I am joined by Greg LaRoche, who is our VP of product, as well as Viz Petreka, who is our VP of sales and customer success. So on today's agenda, we will have Greg walk us through the benefits of the GRC tool, as well as provide us with a demo. We will also cover how you can gain access to the GRC tool. And towards the end of the webinar, we'll be able to leave some room for some Q&A. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. And Greg, why don't I go ahead and just pass it over to you and you can get us started.
All right, thanks, Yasmin.
Yeah.
I'll share my screens. I do have a couple of overview slides, and then I'll get right into the demo after that. Okay, let's go. Ooh. All right. So at a high level, we think about these governance, risk, and compliance tools as really advantageous and good ways to manage a compliance program or a compliance set of compliance tasks. But there's a little more detail in terms of where is the value in using a GRC tool as opposed to managing your compliance program some other way, like on spreadsheets or on sticky notes, who knows, however else you want to track the information. It can quickly become a lot of information spread across a lot of different places, and that is going to introduce the potential for error and omission. And so we don't want that to happen in a compliance program where really everything has to be buttoned up and correct. And so centralized command and control is a place to put everything in one place, see your entire CMMC compliance posture at a glance. So, you always know where you are, which controls are implemented, which ones are not, what tasks are open, who is assigned what. It lets you collect your evidence and put that also in centralized places. So, as you attach evidence or documentation and associate that with controls and control requirements, the tool helps you collect all that and keep it in an orderly fashion, and also handles things like document versioning and some helpful tasks like that. It also gives you workflow, so you can assign tasks to people, whether or not they're singular tasks in order to implement the control, something what we might call a one-time task, or it could be a recurring task, like something you have to do every month or every quarter as part of your compliance requirement. And it also gives you an audit trail and reporting. So when it comes time for an assessment, you can have the system generate documentation that you can give to an assessor. and that helps with a smooth audit and reporting. And it's also cost efficient because you're able to do more yourself. You're able to move more more quickly, and you're going to have lower ongoing maintenance costs, and you're also going to not miss out on things or have errors or incomplete items like that. So you're going to see this in action in the demo, but I just wanted to say at a high level, what some of the benefit areas are of using a tool like this. And this is just a little bit more about what do you get with the PreVeil GRC. So we're offering a customized experience that comes preloaded with a lot of information that, say, like a generic GRC tool may not include. So this one is specifically set up for PreVeil, using it with PreVeil. It does come preloaded with all the CMMC level 2 controls and the controls framework, and we'll see that in a minute. It also has the ACME standard operating procedures and other documents from Compliance Accelerator. So this is an add-on to Compliance Accelerator. So it takes a lot of the content from Accelerator, the documentation in particular from step 6, for those of you in the Accelerator journey, and then puts that in the actual GRC tool for easy referencing. It handles document versioning, as I said earlier. We have shared responsibility information already included in the controls, and you'll see that in a minute. It also has built-in SPRS scoring, so as you're implementing your controls, it keeps track of your score for you. It's a nice feature. And all this information is stored and hosted in the Azure Gov infrastructure. So that's where this application is hosted. And we'll get more into how you can get involved with it towards the end of the program. So for now, I'm just going to switch into demo mode here.
Greg, and I just wanted a couple things before you get rolling into demo mode. Thanks for the introduction, Yasmin. I just wanted to let people know that there is a Q&A capability, so please feel free, especially as we go through more and more content. If you're not hearing your question get answered, please put it in the questions, and then we can respond to those toward the end of this session. So we just definitely want to make sure we cover off any audience questions here before we're done. Secondly, Greg, I know a lot of people here already use our compliance accelerator documentation, the Acme Corp docs, and say they've made changes to those already. And just real quick, will they be able to upload those into the GRC, to replace the kind of the standard ones that are there that are preloaded?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll show you that in the demo.
Okay.
So that's an important aspect of attaching documents to the controls. So I'll show you how that works.
Okay, great. All right, that's it up front.
Excellent. All right, let me get this out of the way. So what you're looking at now is the control view of the GRC tool. And it really is giving you a list of all 110 controls, and they're separated into the various families, and they're all in here. And so this is a demo environment, so really just the AC family has been populated for demonstration purposes, but you can see a lot of good information here at the control level, which is at a glance, you can see which controls are implemented or not. You can see which of these have an implementation statement that's been reviewed and put in there. Some of them have documents already linked. Some of them have ongoing tasks that happen at an interval, and some of them have action items, which are one-time tasks. And you can click around in here and see things very quickly. If you want to see what that task is, you can just click on it, and it will bring you right to the task view of this control. And you can see what the task is and who's it's assigned to and the date and all that good stuff. So we'll get into the controls in some more detail next. So if we pick any one control, we'll go into the detail view of that control. And you can see there's a left side navigation, and there's some information here on the screen. And first thing we'll notice is that these are the assessment objectives for this control. There are 110 controls in the framework, as we all know, and those break down into 320 control assessment objectives. And those are the objectives the assessor is required to measure when they assess your program. And so it's very important that you keep track of each objective and whether or not it's implemented and what state it's in. And so that's where you can see that information at a glance for each control. And then underneath there is the implementation statement. And this is information that comes directly out of Compliance Accelerator. It reflects the shared responsibility matrix information that we provide using PreVeil with these controls, and then identifying what the customer responsibilities are in addition to what PreVeil is covering in terms of technology for this control. So every control has an implementation statement preloaded, and it has all the objectives listed out here, and you can basically do other things in this left side navigation, like attach policies. So policies and or artifacts or other documents can be built up in a library. This is what Vince was referring to earlier. We have the whole Compliance Accelerator library available to us, and we can extract documents from that and attach them to the controls as needed. And not only can we do that, but we can also upload new versions of these documents as well if we've made changes to them. So you're not likely to use the Acme documents as is. You have to customize them and make them match your program as a compliance candidate, and you would then upload your version to the actual controls, and then the system keeps track of all the versioning and things like that. So even if PreVeil at some point in the future updates the library that comes with this, those would just be versions of documents you could update to or not, depending on what you wanted to do. But all of that is handled as part of the document management aspect of this GRC tool. And here's where you also assign action items. You saw an example of one a minute ago. This is where you create those. These are one-time actions, what we're calling POAM tasks here, which are really just actions assigned to people that need to happen on specific controls. and then you have continuous monitoring, and these are the tasks that repeat. So every week, every month, every quarter, whatever interval, you have a specific task, you have to do a review, or you have to have a risk review meeting or something like that as part of your processes. Then you can assign that here, and the system will notify you automatically via email when you have tasks that are due. And so that's just a good way to keep track of all that kind of information. And then across the top, there's a couple other things I wanted to show. So you can jump through the control families very quickly in this view. You can also go to specific controls. You could go from that list view we saw earlier to get to controls. It's pretty straightforward. The policy and procedure library is managed here. So here's where you upload new versions of documents, or where you make changes and manage that repository of documents. That's all here in the policy and procedures section. And it's pretty straightforward to upload or link information, pretty standard file interface here. There's also a risk management section, which is, it's important that you track and identify risks in your environment. That's part of the requirement of the standard of your 110 controls. And here's where you can actually track, create risks, score them for likelihood and severity, and then track them in a risk register. And this basically builds your risk register for you, and uses a kind of a wizard method where you just click through and create a risk, and then it'll create a little heat map for you. And then you can add those in as you encounter them during your risk reviews that are required. There's also approval sections. So if your people that have to approve these documents once they're reviewed internally, and you also have a reporting section, which generates information based on the system view. So, you can go back to a previous view, or you can create a new one after you've made changes. You can select versions of reports from the past, or you can just look at the current one, and it's going to generate, in this case, this is your system security plan report. So this generates your SSP just with the click of a button. So that is, it's generating the system security plan based on all the information you've built up in these other areas of the solution, right? And it can also print things like your POAM report. It can look at your continuous monitoring tasks and give you a report of the status on all those. So it basically gives you a good place to get some reporting. And the last thing we'll show is the dashboard. And that's actually a high-level view of the framework you have loaded in the system. In this case, the PreVeil framework is loaded. It gives you a high-level view of where you're at with controls and implementation. It also gives you an SPRS score here at a glance, and you can see your overall progress. So that's just a nice thing to have, just to if you need to look at the program at a glance. So that's really pretty straightforward. It's, you're looking at each control, you're implementing the objectives, you're checking them off as you go, you're adding in your documents, you're assigning action items to things that need to happen, and you're tracking that all in one place. So this is take advantage of the Compliance Accelerator content. And actually there's a tab here for the whole library. So if you want to see all of the documents that are included in the library, they're all here. Separated by control family. So there is a lot of information preloaded in the system. And so that's where you can just see all that stuff all in one place. So that is really a high-level walkthrough of our new GRC tool. And I think I'm going to hand it back to the team. We can talk about how you get involved, how do you get started with this, and how to reach out to get more information, and hear about our September promotion.
Yeah, thank you so much, Greg. Yeah, so as far as packaging goes, I mean, if you have access to our compliance accelerator today, there is a course in there to guide you on how to use the GRC with the accelerator. Pricing is based on the size of your system setup. So if you are interested in all, just please reach out to your dedicated customer success manager. You can work with them, as we are offering a 25% save-in promotion to get started this month. If you don't know who your customer success manager is, just reach out to us to customersuccess@preveil.com, and we will be able to kind of help you out and guide you through the next steps as far as acquiring it. Vince, are there any questions that we're seeing in the chat that you would like to kind of go over here?
Yeah, we are getting some questions,
Great.
and I've been trying to keep up with some of them along
Yes.
the way, but
Yes.
there are a few that probably make sense to share also with the group in case people aren't following the while in the Q&A. Greg, a real specific question here. Can you rename documents through the portal? Like, do you need to download them and upload them again, or can they be renamed right in the portal?
Typically the way you're going to want to do that is to manage the document set. So if you are creating a new name or a new document, it's going to be easier to treat it as a new document. That way you have the old one if you need it. And so yeah, I would say you're renaming and uploading files is the way you would do that.
Okay, so edit the file, then upload it, whether it's editing the content or the name,
Yeah.
and then upload it back in and make that, assign that to whatever control or whatever portion of the GRC is appropriate.
Right. And then the system would keep that as a new version, which is a little easier to manage, I think.
Yeah, okay. So I think he's saying asking specifically because many of them have Acme names, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think obviously, but yeah, I think obviously the content will need to be modified in those documents as well. Yeah, they have Acme subject lines, so maybe as you're modifying that document, modify the name title as well, of course, and then save that in. Good question though.
Mhm.
Um, let's see, we've got there's a question about whether this tool is available to folks that have PreVeil, have a subscription to PreVeil licenses or not. And I would say yes, this is specific to PreVeil customers. Either obviously our existing customer base who has shown a lot of interest in this new platform for assisting with their CMMC compliance journey, or new customers that we'll be bringing in going forward that may want to acquire this GRC platform as part of their, getting started plan with PreVeil. But yes, it is related to the PreVeil customer base specifically. In fact, of course, those currently that are going after a CMMC level 2 certification. Let's see what else we can get real quick. Is there an address book in the GRC to assign these reminders to other employees, or is that something that kind of needs to be created? There is one, I know. I guess it needs to be created with the
Yeah,
usual
the way it
emails.
works is it's created on the fly by emails. So as you assign tasks in the system, you use email addresses to do that. And then as you add email addresses into the system, it builds the address book. So you don't have to add them again later if it's the same person. But yeah, you do have to assign tasks by email. That's how it works.
Okay. And Greg, there's a question about our historical GRC offering that you had with Complay Up and how this compares with Complay Up. And then maybe, as you can help them with how they can move, if they wish, move from the Complay Up offering to the new PreVeil GRC platform.
Right.
So Greg, maybe you can just talk to the differences or
Yeah. And the main news item there is that ComplyUp has been acquired by another company. So that's why we're not offering it for new customers any longer, because it's no longer available to us. So that's the main reason why we shifted to a new solution. The other reason was we did like the feature set of this new tool. We thought it was a little more simplified and streamlined in terms of the workflow. Both tools are good and they provide very similar kind of functionality and capabilities, but we like the usability of this model, and we like the fact that we could private label it and put our own content in it more easily than we could with ComplyUp, where we had to do like kind of back end data updates in order to update the system. We don't, now we can control all that ourselves. So that's just a few advantages from our standpoint. As far as the basic tools go, a lot of them cover the same functionality. They all have controls in them, and they all have documentation, and they all have workflow. So from that standpoint, I think you could use either one and be successful for sure. But we like this one. It's very easy to use, easy to learn, very not overly complex, because some of these tools have much higher levels of capability, but they're also highly complicated, and they cost a lot more money, frankly. So that was those are some of the criteria we had when we selected this solution.
Yeah, very good. And yes, do you want to maybe get into, I know we don't have that many customers that use the Complat platform, but for those that are using it that might be interested in moving to this,
Yeah, just reach out to us at customersuccess@prevail.com and we can work with you, directly to kind of get you on. So yeah, just let us know.
Yeah. We'll continue to support if you have CompLab today and want to continue to use that. That's okay. But we can also provide an upgrade path if you'd like to move to this. Let's see, Greg. There's also a question here about does this GRC manage down to the 320 assessment objective level, or is it just at the 110 control level?
Yeah, it definitely goes down to the objective level for each control.
Okay.
And hopefully that came across in the demo, because I did try to show a little bit of that. For each control, each assessment objective is delineated, and each one has its own separate status on its implementation. And so you're tracking at that level. And then that rolls up to the control level, of course. And then the dashboard is tracking at the control level, but the controls themselves are tracking at the objective level.
Great. Here's a question about on the commercial side, I think I can handle. Is this a one-time purchase with updates as needed? This is a subscription purchase. We're going to be maintaining this content and this tool. So it is sold on a subscription basis, annual pricing for as long as you want to maintain the GRC and the content in it. So that is, again, for year one, we do have a special for existing customer base who want to get started here in September. We'll do 25% off the first year fee. Option upload. No, I'm seeing one here. Greg, I'm going to read it as is, so you can take it from there. Is the only option to upload and manage docs, but no guided document creation ability?
Oh, that's a great question. No, the short answer is no. We don't have a guided document creation ability today, but that is definitely on our plans in our roadmap. We want to take advantage of large language models and AI, and have a tool that can help you generate documents based on some inputs. That, of course, that's not included today, but that's certainly something we want to do in the future.
Great, that's good to know. Here's an individual who says that specifically uses another tool today, this one being Aptiga, and asking how difficult it is to transfer this data into the PreVeil platform. And I think this could be generalized to folks who already have another GRC that maybe they aren't fully sold on and would like to consider this option.
Yeah, I think the worst case scenario is a cut and paste exercise where you'd have to go into each control and cut out the information that's in the current system and paste it into the new system. That's kind of, tedious. It would be, difficult to standardize the data schemas across all the GRC tools. So there isn't a really easy way to export this data and then import it into another tool without having to do some integration work and understanding the translation and all that. So yeah, so I think for now the way to do it would be to cut and paste between the two platforms and then offboard the older one.
Yep. Here's one asking whether they need to have PreVeil Drive to use this tool, or can your data be in GCC High? I want to say that this system, this subscription, is for a system that's operating in the Azure Gov cloud, so in a very secure cloud. I know the PreVeil system itself, Drive, operates in AWS Gov Cloud, another extremely secure cloud. This operates in Azure Gov, so you can be sure that it's secured there. As to whether you need PreVeil Drive, as we mentioned before, this is for customers of PreVeil that have the PreVeil system. Most of our customers do have PreVeil Drive. They may have only PreVeil email, but I prefer a licensed subscription. Certainly, many of our customers also do utilize GCC High, and that could be fine, I think. Greg, if they needed to add GCC High related content to this platform from a SSP and SOP perspective, I assume that can be handled, right?
Yeah, I think the interesting notion would be for an individual contractor, the information in this system is not COI, right? It's your own compliance information. However, the exception to that would be if you are a C3 PAO and you're not a contractor and you're an assessor, then you have additional requirements for data protection, and you have to actually protect the assessment data as if it were CUI, even though it's not. So it's a different story for assessors. This tool would probably not be appropriate for assessors for that reason, and really would be more useful to actual contractors.
Yeah, private contractors. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Here's a request, Greg, maybe even from a walkthrough of editing a document, editing the document in the use of AI. I don't know that you have AI today in the solution, do we?
No, there is a tool. There's a document review tool that is part of the platform, and it does use an AI framework from our partner, our technology partner, the vendor we work with for this solution. And it does have the ability to review an existing document. It's not going to create a document for you, but if you have a document and you want it to check it against a compliance baseline, let's say for 800-171 or the 110 controls, you can have the AI look at it and it will give you suggestions on where the document needs to be improved. So that all is part of it now, but again, it doesn't generate the document. So
so that's included in our baseline offering today, the review process, but it's not generating content.
Right.
Okay.
And the content that's there now has already been assessed by a C3PAO. The Acme content has all been assessed by a third party. So that has already been reviewed by an actual assessor. So, but you could also review it through the AI, but it may not need much. Those documents typically won't need much adjustment. They're really you really just have to edit them so they match what you're doing in your environment, because you may have slightly different process than Acme had, and so you have to make sure your documents match what you are doing and not just kind of cut and paste directly from Acme if it doesn't match your process. So that's usually the exercise, is get the documents to reflect what you're actually doing, review them, attach them to the appropriate controls, and that's really the exercise of documentation. And the Acme examples are there to give you a really good, clean, complete example of what any document could possibly need and what it should look like.
And just to make sure we're all on the same page now, with the latest version of the Acme Corp documents, which is the sample company that PreVeil uses for its CMMC Level 2 compliance documentation, this is all not only really completely assessor-ready documentation from an Acme Corp perspective, but has also been validated by authorized C3PAOs. So they've gone through this content as if Acme Corp were going for CMMC certification. We went through several iterations of modifying the content to ensure it would pass a CMMC certification assessment. And that's what you're getting. Now, again, it will need to be customized in some or many cases for your specific environment and your business use case. And particularly if you have CUI that's out of scope of PreVeil, then there will be additional content, of course, that you need to bring in from a compliance standpoint. But the content in our latest version of the Compliance Accelerator and in the corresponding GRC now will be that latest version of the Acme docs that are completely, assessment ready. Here's a good question, Greg, and one I was going to ask on too. Can you expand on the ongoing use of this tool post your first certification, like the usefulness and how this will help them maintain their certification?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. And I'll just add the little notion that compliance is forever, right? So you don't just implement a compliance program and then be done. A compliance program is a living system that has to be maintained over time. And some of the maintenance is required and some of it is just good practice, right? So you would use the tool on an ongoing basis forever because your control implementations may change over time. You may add systems, you may remove systems. Maybe you get more COI users and then you have less COI users or whatever your changes are. So there's the notion of change, that's an important part of tracking. And then, but also the tasks themselves that are in the system that are for the required tasks, those are also tracked over time. And so every quarter when you have to do your risk review, or every month you're doing your COI user review, or whichever reviews you're doing of your documents, you can then put evidence of that review in the system, and then the system will also remind you to do the task. So it's just going to bother you over time to do the things you're supposed to do, and then actually make a record that you did it. And then over time, that builds the database up of history so that when you get assessed every 3 years, you have to get your assessment every 3 years. You'll have the data set there that the assessor needs to look at, and it's all in one place. So that's the ongoing advantage is just as things change, you'll have the information you need for those future assessments.
Okay, great. No, I agree completely. This is a life cycle tool for CMMC compliance. Let's see, can those users be not in our GRC licensing? We only have 3 PreVeil licenses. Yeah, the GRC licensing does not need to overlap with your PreVeil licenses. They can be separate. As an organization, we'll make the GRC tool as well as our compliance accelerator only available to customers that are using PreVeil licenses, but the logins for the compliance accelerator, the logins for the GRC platform, and your PreVeil user access do not need to necessarily overlap. They can be different, but they should be either individuals in your organization or third-party RPOs, CMMC consultants that you're working with that you advise our customer success team to set up with this appropriate access to support your compliance journey. Can the platform upload diagrams into the SSP for, say, multiple locations, Greg?
Yeah, the SSP header section allows you to upload multiple files. It also tracks your asset inventory there and your personnel inventory. So it's a place of listing those environmental aspects of the SSP right up front. I didn't show that in the demo because my demo system didn't have any of that populated, but there's a section in the navigation where you add that data into the SSP.
Okay. Oh, we're getting lots of good questions here. Okay, so if an organization has PreVeil to use as their secure enclave with users in that organization that are out of scope due to need to work in this documentation, I think this is the same question that we answered already, which is no, you can have people involved in working in the compliance accelerator or in the GRC platform with all that content. They do not need to be PreVeil users in your organization. Those can be separate. They can overlap, of course, but they do not need to be. If we have a hybrid environment, we have both Azure GCC High and PreVeil. Can this tool be used to input and cover data and track from both architectures? And again, I'm pretty sure the answer to this is yes, Greg, right? It's flexible. The content, many of our customers will have out of scope systems, whether it's GCC High or a CAD system or an ERP system, et cetera, that needs to be built into their CMMC compliance boundary. And this tool will provide, you can pull that information in just like you can the PreVeil content.
That's right. Yep. And that goes back to that asset inventory we were talking about a minute ago. So it's all part of that same thing, tracking all the, identifying and defining your boundary, which could be very, customized to your company. Wherever your boundary is, you document it in the system. Yep.
Yeah. Here's a question. Someone, and I'm happy to be transparent about this, is this a PreVeil developed solution or a third-party solution that we are branding as our own? And it is the latter. PreVeil's expertise is in compliance documentation. It's in developing a DFARS compliant platform for secure email and file storage and sharing. It is not in GRC platforms. So what we did is we talked to a number of potential partners out there. We surveyed the landscape. We found a solution that we thought would be best for our customer base, as well as provided a cost-effective option for our customer base that we could grow with, that we could work on AI with into the future, et cetera. And that's what we decided to do. So you will see PreVeil branding, but the development of this was done outside of the PreVeil development team. Greg, here's a question. Could this tool be used to manage other security frameworks outside of NIST 800-171? I did see someone else asking about ISO,
Yep.
et cetera. And I know we have some potential future plans here.
We do. And our partner that we work with has developed multiple frameworks for this platform. And so they already offer on the commercial side of their business, they already offer this tool with more than a dozen optional frameworks. They do license them separately. And so we have planned to integrate that into our offering in the future by giving us a channel to add the specific frameworks we think are most relevant to our customers and make them available through the same kind of motion, so it's not complicated in the future. But for now, you would have to buy those additional frameworks separately, but they are available, and that includes 853, ISO, PCI, DSS, HIPAA, you name it. They've got dozens of frameworks that are available, but you'd have to work with them directly to get them added to your tenant. But in the future, we're going to make that easier.
Yeah, we'll make that today. We can support it as early as today. So if you're in that situation and you have our new tool, let us know and we'll arrange for you to be able to consider that alternative to add other frameworks. Greg, with a C3PO audit, documents may need to be hashed and saved. Does the system allow for that to happen? What would be your recommended process for working with the C3PAO when it comes to sharing this content, during the assessment process?
Yeah, typically, I mean, that a lot of that has to do with the C3PO's process themselves. Like, what system are they using to save this documentation? And they have a requirement to encrypt it and not save it in plain text, but that's their requirement, not yours, right? So you might have to, give them documents that they would then have to put through a system to be encrypted and saved in accordance with their requirements. But this GRC tool in and of itself doesn't do that for you. It gives you the document repository that you can basically share access with the C3PAO. They can take what they need out of there, but then if they're going to save it in their system, they have to do the encryption. That's their requirement, right?
You could share it via PreVeil Drive, of course,
Yep.
The documentation with them. And there are a number of C3POs who use PreVeil as their platform to support their own CMMC level 2 compliance out there today, including a number of authorized C3POs. So if you happen to work with one of those, then that will be a piece of cake to do with them. But with anyone else who may not be using, PreVeil, of course, they'll use some other platform that supports CMMC level 2, and they should make it available for you to be able to drop it into their offering in a way that meets the assessment requirements. Is there a split in the licenses between editors and read only, Greg? Or I think there's just one type, right?
Yeah, the users are all editors in the current setup. The platform does have more role flexibility, but we wanted to keep it really simple. So it's just one role right now. And if we find that that's a problem, we can make changes in the future.
We could make that update. So that's potentially good feedback. Let's see how it goes, and we'll make a determination if we need to add that without causing complexity. And I did say, someone's asking for clarification. PreVeil content is stored encrypted in the AWS Gov Cloud. The GRC content is stored in the Azure Gov. So both Gov community clouds, both, Greg, are those both IL4 or 5?
Yes. Yep.
Clouds, so very secure in both cases. They just happen to be different locations. Does this tool have the ability to document certain scoping requirements outlining CRMAs and SPAs, ESPs into the SSP per the final rule?
Yeah, that would be part of the asset inventory information that we talked about a couple of times, which is, a table of assets that all have classifications, and then they all appear in the network diagram, and that's a requirement. So you have to have that. And the system gives you a place to define all that information for the SSP specifically.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then here's someone asking a similar question, I think. Are there areas to upload and organize things such as a incident response document that they would have? And yes, absolutely. You can pull in whatever documentation you may have, whether it's a different template, whether it's your existing incident response plan you have today. You don't want to use the Acme example we have, or something that certainly can be pulled in, I assume.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. And there's one other here that I can respond to directly. It's a more specific question to this particular individual. I think that's most. I don't know, Yaz, if I guess we're running to the end of the time.
We are. Yeah, I think you covered most of these questions. I mean, there were a couple of questions asking about the, if this is a one-time fee or ongoing, and I think we answered that. But if you guys are still unsure of, what the cost looks like I said earlier, just reach out to us, customer success at prevail.com. We'll be happy to work with you and share, specific quotes with you. Definitely take advantage of the, ongoing promotion that we have for the month. It is 25% off. So we'd love to get you on that, sooner rather than later. So definitely reach out.
Yeah. We went, this was an initiative that was driven by our customer base. They asked about this. We believe we have an excellent solution here that's both cost effective, will save you a lot of money in the long run to use this, certainly save you a lot of time, as well as avoid issues or problems that you might have during the assessment process if you don't use a tool like this. I can just make that less challenging. So hope you can take advantage of it. And of course, if you have feedback as you're using this, let us know, and we'll continue to make improvements in this offering, just like we do in the PreVeil system itself.
Yeah, and as far as the recording, I think we will have, obviously, this session, it is recorded. So once the recording becomes available, we'll be happy to share it with you guys so you have it for those who have asked. So. And I think was that everything? Do we have any new questions on here? No, I don't think so. I think we've covered most. Well, yeah, if you guys didn't get a chance to ask questions, feel free to obviously reach out to us again, customer success at prevail.com, and we'll walk you through the answers. But yeah, thank you again for taking the time to join us today. Hopefully this was a helpful session. And we look forward to working with you.
Great. Very good. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Yes.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.